Bam. Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for watching and for listening. It's another edition of Gonna See My Friends podcast. Toby is on assignment today, so we have my friend, my old friend Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That's
bam.
me. I'm back like a vertebrae.
And this week we're going to be talking about since the holidays, we're going to be talking about Scrooge with Bill Murray, directed by Richard Donner, which I think came out in 88.
Yep, 88.
And this was, I think Richard Donner made this in between the Lethal Weapon movies, 1 and 2, I think it was. And this was Bill Murray's kind of comeback. Aside from a few cameos, he was kind of, this is his first movie back since Ghostbusters. So this was kind of like, initially it wasn't really well received, but now it's kind of got that cult following thanks to home video and all that kind of good stuff, which is a common story. But what I first wanted to talk about, Scott, with you was kind of Bill Murray's place, because you hear a lot of Eddie Murphy, you hear a lot of Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, these big titans of the 80s, but you never really hear about Bill Murray, which, I mean, if you look back at his film resume, he's up there with the best of them, I think, anyways. What was one of your first kind of recollections of seeing Bill Murray, like movie-wise, or was it Saturday Night Live, or was it Caddyshack?
No, because I'm a little younger than you, even though I'm an old friend. I'm a little younger.
That's right.
I'm tail end Gen X, like very, very tail end, snuck in by a couple months. For me, I remember Ghostbusters as a kid. And I'm sure we rented it. I don't know that I saw it in the theaters. Ghostbusters would have been, let's see, what year was Ghostbusters?
84.
80, oh, yeah. I would have been like 4 or 5 years old. So I grew up with that on VHS then.
Okay.
For me, this might be my first exposure to Bill Murray. Like actually seeing, a live movie in the theater with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I would have been, I was 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
I think that was my first exposure. And then I remember Ghostbusters too, but that was after that. So
right, yeah, that was. Well, that's cool because I my first movie was Stripes, and I saw that. That was one of the. So that came out, I think, in 81, but I saw that on VHS, and that was in fact. We got our first VHS or VCR in 83, I want to say, maybe 82. And that was like, Stripes was the first movie I rented, along with Cannonball Run and Star Wars. Those are my first 3 movies. And it was, dude, back in the time when you went to the video store, or at least in my time, and it was a small little, small store, and they had a counter, and then they would have the movies behind the counter, and you would go, let me rent that one. And that one and that one. And all together, they probably had 20 movies that you could pick from. Mm-hmm. And that was when I first started seeing Bill Murray movies was Stripes. And it's kind of funny because in this movie, Scrooge, there's elements of what his strengths are as a comedic actor. And if you go back to and watch his movies, there's an element of everything he does in this movie of that, the speech, the big speech, the slapstick, the over the top kind of reactions to things, that's staple Bill Murray moves. And I think when he made this movie, that was what I was looking up some internet trivia, and he was saying like, I'm never going to, because it was 4 years in between movies, and he felt like he was rusty, and that was some things that. But what are some of the things that you appreciate about Bill Murray?
Some actors just have a style, right? Like somebody else could do them, but you're always going to be like, no, you're doing Bill Murray. The way that he like you said reacts to things, and his cadence. a lot of that it's specific just to him.
Yeah,
You can
definitely.
tell the sarcasm there. Like that's like his language in movies is just straight up sarcasm, and the things that you kind of want to say, but you filter yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think he's had, back, because in the 90s, he kind of was really selective about his comedy, and then he went into drama and excelled at that. And let's see, what was it? Oh, yeah, that's what, that movie with Richard Dreyfuss. What was that? What About Bob?
What About Bob? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another movie we got to do. But, there was, it had just come out probably about 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know, maybe sooner, but about his kind of behavior on that set. And since then, you've heard these stories about these crazy Bill Murray, both good and bad, and it's kind of made me think about, especially watching this movie, Scrooged. It kind of made me think about like how far because he reminds me of kind of Chevy Chase in a way. And they both have similar kind of trajectories, although Chevy Chase kind of dropped off the map a little bit. But, I always felt like, Bill Murray kind of, and in Scrooge too, this is kind of happens, but the shtick, what you were talking about, his cadence, his style, his shtick, it's kind of, I think he's kind of, what's the word, out, he's just not looked at as that kind of thing. Because I remember watching Charlie's Angels with Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and the stories from that set. Anyways, my point being is that it's really kind of, for me anyways, it's really kind of, it hasn't lessened it, but I look back at the comedy he did in the 80s, and I think how much of that was driven by, because he was a big guy, big ego, and how much of that was driven by, this, that kind of bad behavior, and how much of it was driven by the actual kind of, I love being here and I love making movies. And do you see that? Do you see like any kind of, I don't know, does that hamper anything that he's done or anything like that? Long-winded question, but
there's definitely people that you hear a story about them or court case about them, and you're like, yeah, I can't. I love that older stuff, but it just taints it for you.
Yeah.
And there's the varying levels there of okay, well, I could see past that. I said, one of my favorite Christmas movies now is Fat Man, that independent movie where Mel Gibson plays Santa Claus, and when you see that, you're like, I'd kind of like to see that, but I don't know that I should see that, and should I enjoy it? It's always a scale across there, and I feel like sometimes it's not a matter of supporting what the person did; you're supporting the movie.
You're right. That's how I kind of look at it.
It wasn't just that person. It'd be like writing off, my family because I cut you off in the drive-thru one day.
Right. And that's because for me, a lot of the Bill Murray stuff, I take it back to Saturday Night Live, and I take it back to kind of that era where there were these kind of not ready for primetime players, and they weren't popular, and then TV at that time, late night TV, wasn't as accessible as it is now. Whereas I think after the nightly news, there was just reruns and all this other kind of, I don't know, just substandard TV, I suppose. I don't know. I never watched it back then, and so these guys had to be kind of irreverent and kind of edgy, and I think that listening to or watching kind of John Belushi's a couple of documentaries that I've seen about him during that time, they were breaking new ground, and they were the ones that were kind of driving that comedy in the late night. And Saturday Night Live has become what it's become, but I think when you look back at that time, you had to have this kind of ferocity, and you kind of had to have this, and there was rampant drug use and LSD and everything else. And I think what LSD does is, I took it all the time when I was younger, is that it kind of breaks down a lot of these barriers socially. And so when you come back to, you know, I guess, quote unquote, reality or real life, you still hang on to those things of like, oh, that's bullshit, dude. And so I think that kind of attitude carried on into his career, because if you watch Bill Murray, a lot of his movies are him, like you were saying, the sarcasm, the kind of cutting, biting humor, and so for me, that was the lure of Bill Murray and what made him so funny. And I think so. Yeah, I'm like with you, man. There's a scale, and then like, you know, yeah, he was probably a dick to Richard Dreyfuss in What About Bob, but from what I hear, Richard Dreyfuss is a dick too. So it's just, you know, it's probably just.
I don't see like, you know, a lot of careers. There's one for them, one for me scenario, and you don't see that like with Bill Murray past a certain point. It's like he's just. No, these are all for me. I'm only doing maybe Garfield, you know, like, I mean, that's a payday, but, you know, you don't see a lot of one for them, one for me, at least past that certain point. I mean, you get to Lost in Translation, you know, then you get Garfield, the second Garfield. You know, you don't get a whole lot of stuff there. That's just the commercial. Yeah, I'm going to get in this and, you know, film a couple scenes and then get my paycheck. Yeah, right. And I think a lot of his later stuff, sorry, I was just checking out his IMDb page. A lot of his later stuff too is, you know, there's this myth or this kind of, what do you call it? Urban legends about the way he accepts movies now and it's hard for me to discern what is true and what isn't, because I feel like a lot of times you get on the internet and they just make up a nice quote and they just attribute it to somebody. And I think the first time I recognized that was back in the day when I read some quote supposedly about what Kurt Cobain said, you know, and I was like, I don't know if he ever said that. I was around, you know, we were around at that time. I don't remember. I mean, not to say that he did say it, but you know, I don't know. So when I hear these things about like he has an answering machine and you call him with an offer and then he'll get back to you maybe. So there's all these things, but his work is kind of, he does like really small movies and then he does these really kind of, you know, he redid the Ghostbusters movies, which, did you see those movies at all? The sequels? Yep.
What did you think about those?
The first one, Afterlife, I think is right. I enjoyed Afterlife. I thought it was, you know, I'm not opposed to nostalgia grabs. Right. It makes me warm and fuzzy, and I like to be warm and fuzzy.
Member berries,
there's a time and place to be warm and fuzzy, and I'm fine with that. You know what it is going into it. You know, you're gonna get a couple lines out of them. You're gonna get the tingles when you see the crew all back together. Second one, more of a cash grab. You know, I was it Ghostbusters? Yes. But it wasn't as held together by the nostalgia. Like you use all that nostalgia up and then it just seeps out.
Yeah. I like the first one, Afterlife. I kind of dug that one. Parts of it. The majority of it I did. The second one I didn't see just because of what you said. It was kind of, it was an obvious cash grab. But the third thing is that, and they kind of hinted at it in Afterlife, was they could have gone in such a different direction, because you have to remember too, the original Ghostbusters was kind of dark, and I think the thing that they're missing with these new ones is that darkness. And whereas Afterlife, I think, kind of did the whole you know, Force Awakens kind of thing, where they kind of just redressed the first kind of movie. You know, nowadays with, you know, my sister watches all of these like ghost hunter type of shows, you know, these adventure shows where they go and they have the video and they have all this equipment, and it's like, this is like the Ghostbusters, you know. And so I felt like they could really kind of go in that direction and make some really cool, interesting stories, and then they can actually kind of pass the torch better to another team that, again, the first one was kind of grounded. I mean, it was kind of grounded in reality, the drama parts, or the parts that, you know, when they start the business, and the trials and tribulations of having a business. And so, I mean, you could just go nuts with the things that they could do now, especially in regards to ghosts. So that's what disappointed me about the new ones was, they just made it for kids again, and that's fine, but it's like they could have just went another way. So
yeah, you could definitely. To pass a torch, you need to see the torch being passed, right? You can't have the one person over here and then now this person has it. It's not it's not a warm handoff, which is literal with a torch, right? It's a warm handoff. So with that first one, with the Afterlife one, that's what it was. That's what it felt like, and it felt like, okay, good. They brought them back. Everyone's here, and now it's you go do your thing. And then when they went to do their thing, it's like, oh no, we're still here. Yeah. And if they had branched off a little bit more, gone with, Ernie Hudson, like branching off these Ghostbuster franchises and financing them and the research and stuff, you could have still had the daughter aspect, Paul Rudd there for the humor. You could have had that, but just themselves then taking off.
Yeah, and I think not that this is a great business model for Star Wars, but I mean, you could have had these little offshoots too of like
Ghostbusters Los Angeles. I would watch the heck out of that. Like, give me Ghostbusters. It's like NCIS. You're gonna have 14 of these things, and give me all the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, you could have done just little things like that, and not as. Not like Star Wars just kind of went overboard, but I think, once every couple of years you have a Ghostbuster movie that's made for TV movie that's maybe an offshoot. And I mean, again, there's just so many avenues they could have done with that movie, and they just went for the biggest, most spectacular type of thing. And it's, I guess that's it. I mean, Dan Aykroyd was saying, he's like, well, I'm done with it. I'm done. They need to kind of go off and do their own thing, and that. Which is, kind of good self-awareness, because it's at some point you can't just be like 80 years old and make it.
You're a ghost yourself and making Ghostbusters movies.
Oh, cool! And
this retirement home is haunted.
Exactly.
Look at those floating AARP magazines.
Who's reading those? My God. So anyways, so I mean, I think Bill Murray has kind of getting back to Bill Murray, I think he's kind of had an illustrious career, and it's not, I've heard the stories and of this and that and the other thing, and so I'm still a fan. I'll still watch his movies, and we'll go from there, I suppose. So you had something you wanted to say? You said or do you want to save that for later? Do you want to just talk about Scrooge?
Yeah, we can talk about Scrooge. I can tell you first off, I know this is one I know when I first saw it. I know specifically. Oh, okay. The first time I saw it was in the theater, and I was 9 years old, and I was going to the theater with my friend Devin, and his mother. And his mom was taking us to the movies, and I was a 9-year-old there, like, and the movie that came out at the same time, I think it was Oliver and Company. Was it Aristocats? One of those. Yeah. And I was like, oh, we're going to go see that. That's awesome. We're going to go see it. And his mom was like, no, I'm not seeing that. She's like, we're seeing Scrooged. And I didn't have any say in it. So I didn't know what I was getting into. But of course I got there and I enjoyed it. Nice. And seeing it in the theater with my friend and us, being 9 and talking to each other a little bit through the movie. At the end, when he does the whole, you talking right through the whole movie, I remember specifically looking at my friend and going, he means us. He means us. He's reaching through the screen. It's us.
Yeah. That's that scene reminds me of a scene in Stripes. Have you ever seen Stripes? Mm-hmm. Okay. So he has, what does he have? 2? No, he has that one. right before they graduate. We are the wretched refuse, and he has that old Yeller speech. But yeah, that was a cool scene. I think the first time that I saw it, I want to say it was just VHS, and it was probably the mid '90s. Maybe it was even after this. No, I didn't. I was on my own, so it was in an apartment. Probably like 94, 95, I saw it. And I remember being really sick. Like I had the flu or I had a fever and a cough. And I remember my roommate, yeah, my roommate brought home a bunch of movies, I think. And I think Scrooge was one of them. And, to tell you the truth, I never really got into it until probably 2 or 3 viewings later. And then I kind of was able to appreciate it more. But that first couple times I think I watched it, I was either sick or I was drunk or I was at a party. And so I remember seeing it and going, I remember distinctly thinking too, oh, I got to sit down and watch this because I'm seeing this everywhere. And so, yeah, that was my first time. And I think, I think that was it. Yeah. So, what did you buy it on VHS? Were you a big fan of that one? Like Say Anything?
Yeah, I didn't. I spent all my money on my Say Anything VHS tapes. I didn't have any money for anything else. No, I didn't. I don't think I may own a copy now of the DVD, but I don't believe I own it on VHS. When we got a VHS player, I remember the ones that we had to start was Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and I think E.T. And I think E.T. we got as the VHS was like a Christmas present type thing.
Yeah.
And then E.T., my cousin got it downstairs, and so that night I was like, let's go downstairs and watch E.T.
Yeah.
But I don't remember owning it at all. Even now, I had to stream it, through a service.
Yeah.
I might have it on DVD somewhere, but I wasn't. I'm too lazy to go digging.
Yeah, I saw it on Paramount Plus has it right now, so I have that, which is weird because I think it should be. I mean, Amazon Prime or whatever, the big streamers should probably have it.
Yeah, Prime. That's where I watched it. Was Prime. Prime had it. But I checked Fandango Access or whatever, and I think it was on sale for $10, which makes sense because it's Christmas time. Maybe in June you can get it for $5.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what else. So bring up the list here. Cool. Did you do any digging on this movie? Do you have any facts? Any kind of?
So I looked at more along the lines of Christmas Carol just in media.
Yeah.
And it's been all over the place. And you look at the Wikipedia page of adaptations.
Yeah.
And it goes through theater adaptations and radio play and how many live broadcasts it had of actual Christmas Carol. So this, the plot of the movie, the subplot, I guess, it makes sense because they've actually done all those live ones, but just the research I did was more into the different types of movies and series they've done. Like every TV series has had either a Christmas Carol or a It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. One of those two, like Married with Children, I think it was It's a Wonderful Life. And then there was like Sanford and Son, Family Ties, even $6 Million Man. Like those all had Christmas Carol type episodes.
Family Ties. Okay. All right. Yeah.
And Quantum Leap was just like the whole series of Quantum Leap was like a Christmas Carol. I mean, he's hopping in someone's body.
Well, is this your favorite adaptation of it, or what was your favorite adaptation of
So my favorite adaptation, I mean, I haven't seen this one in a long time, so it's not one I go back to. The one that we go back to of A Christmas Carol is Mickey's Christmas Carol. That's probably the one I go back to. And in my heart, I love the Muppets one, of course.
Yeah.
Because it's just a classic.
Now, do you know if Bugs Bunny did one? Because I remember at the beginning of Lethal Weapon, he's watching it when he's crying over his wife. So and I can't find it anywhere.
That's one thing that I wrote down. So I'm going to quiz you a little bit on on some of these prior Christmas carols, and they're mostly like animated stuff. And I
Sweet.
want you to
All
tell
right.
me who plays Scrooge. in
Okay.
them. All right.
All right.
So first one is we'll start with Bugs Bunny Christmas Carol. Who do you think plays
plays-
Scrooge?
Was that Elmer Fudd?
Close.
Okay. Elmer Fudd. Merry Christmas. Oh, dude. Was it Daffy or Daffy Duck? Was it
So
Daffy?
in Bugs Bunny's Christmas Carol, Scrooge is
Yeah.
played by Yosemite Sam.
Yosemite Sam.
Varmints. So that
Damn it. Do you know? Have you seen that?
I don't remember seeing it. No, there
Dude, I
is a
can't
second
find that.
one.
Oh, okay.
So maybe you're talking about this one. So this one's called Bah Humduck, a Looney Tunes Christmas. And in Bah Humduck, who do you think plays Scrooge?
The uncle, the older duck. What was his name? I lost. Let's see. Hold on.
So this is still Looney Tunes universe.
Ebenezer Duck or Ebenezer Quack or whatever. He wears the single.
The Monopoly monocle.
Yeah. Monocle. I can't remember. I can't remember
Monocle.
his name. I can
Monocle.
see him, but
Monocle. So that is Muppet Christmas
Okay.
Carol. Well, no, that's the Mickey's Christmas Carol. That's Scrooge McDuck.
okay. Scrooge McDuck.
He's
And
actually
that's an
named
actual.
Scrooge.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and they named him before that. He was created in 1947, and he was named
Oh.
after Ebenezer Scrooge. But then that
Okay.
animated one didn't come out until
Right.
much later.
Okay.
But for Bah Humduck, the Looney Tunes Christmas, it's Daffy Duck.
Daffy.
He's Daffy
Okay.
in that one.
All right. All right.
Sesame Street Christmas Carol. Who do you think plays Scrooge?
Oh, is it Oscar?
Oscar the Grouch.
Oh, okay.
Oscar
All right,
the Grouch plays Scrooge. And then
One.
Muppet Christmas Carol. Who plays Scrooge?
Was it? Oh man, was it one of the dudes up in the balcony?
Statler and Waldorf.
One of those guys?
It
No?
would make sense, but that's kind of a trick
Yeah.
question because Muppet
Okay.
Christmas Carol, it's Michael Caine.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that.
Michael
I
Caine
remember
is
that.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
I had the Muppet Christmas John Denver album. Did you have that as a kid?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh man, I played the crap out of that thing. Especially
That's maybe a question you should ask every movie episode is, could this be remade with the Muppets?
yes. Maybe that should be it.
Because who you'd have one human, you pick one human from the cast, and
Yeah.
then everybody else is Muppets.
Oh man,
Like a
okay.
Great Gatsby, Great Expectations with Muppets would be great.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, like I thought that they should be doing that with everything, because the Muppet Show was kind of like a variety show for just that thing. They would have one kind of it was like Saturday Night Live. They would have one human host, but then everything else would be Muppets.
I looking through the list of all the different iterations of Christmas Carol, the
Yeah.
oddest one that I found with the oddest pairing of actors, it was called Carol Christmas in 2003. Scrooge was played by Tori Spelling. It had
Let Donna Martin graduate.
as Ghost of Christmas Past was Gary Coleman.
I gotta look this up. Holy
and
crap!
Ghost of
going.
Christmas Present was William Shatner. It's 2003, a Carol Christmas.
Was this on a network like NBC or something?
I don't know. It didn't
Jesus.
list that on Wikipedia.
Oh my goodness!
Uncredited James Cromwell as Ghost of Christmas Future.
Oh, it's that guy. Tori. I'll just look at. Man, because I want to see that now. Mm-hmm. I want to actually.
There's another one that had another one that was direct to DVD called Second Chance for Christmas from 2019.
Yeah.
Brittany Underwood takes the Scrooge role, and it stars Tara Reid, Vivica A. Fox, Jim O'Hare, Mark McGrath, and the wrestler Rob Van Dam. So they've made a lot of these. Pretty much everyone's gotten their chance to participate in Christmas Carol.
Because over Thanksgiving, I was talking to one of my aunts, and I was like, well, Christmas time now is the time where I watch a lot of the iterations of Christmas Carol. And we were naming off our favorites. And we just stuck with the traditional ones. My list has grown because I got to see these movies.
Mm-hmm. They'll take some artistic liberty for sure. Just like this, this movie did it. I was hopeful that I was able to read the book before this podcast, but I didn't get to it, of course. So, but going through the more standard ones, like the Mickey Christmas Carol, I feel like those are pretty tried and true.
Yeah.
This one definitely takes its liberties, but I enjoyed the setting.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, in the 80s, that was very accurate for its time frame.
Right. Yeah, it was, Roger Ebert hated this movie. Absolutely hated it. And I was like, Jesus. He said it was the worst adaptation of this story he's ever seen. I'm like, whoa. But mine, I loved, my favorite is the George C. Scott version. It came out, I think, in 85, 86, somewhere around there. And then I watched the one with Patrick Stewart, which came out, I think, in 2000. And you can see definitely the similarities and what they've based, like what's taken from the book. And then there's kind of a template of what, of you have to hit these marks at least. Mm-hmm. And then, but you can do whatever you want, but you just make sure you hit these things. And you could see that in all the adaptations that I watched. The ones that I got last year and I haven't watched, I was going to watch it this year, was Scrooge. I think it's called Scrooge. With Albert Finney. It came out, I think, in 74 or 76, and it's a musical. So that's the next one. But now I got to watch this, like, A Carol Christmas.
A Carol Christmas. It's like when every year you watch, your Christmas favorites, and it changes household to household. Like, do you watch He-Man Christmas or Snork's Christmas or whatever there is out there? You're going to start watching A Carol Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, man. I got to check it out. And then that other one you said in 2019 with Rob Van Dam.
Yeah, I don't know what Rob Van Dam played. It's called Second Chance for Christmas, per Wikipedia.
Wasn't he the one that eked his whole family? Did he?
No, that was Chris Benoit. So Rob Van Dam was the 5-star frog splash guy.
Oh, man. For you, okay. Because someone brought up Rob Van Dam probably in the last year or so. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's that guy that... And they kind of looked at me like, huh? That was a Chris Benoit. Yeah.
No, that was Benoit.
Okay. Yeah, that's sad. All right. Yeah, so
but this movie was funny.
Yeah. Loads of laughs. Yeah, I think the thing was... the beginning was... well, you go ahead. Tell us what the story's about. And
I mean... overall, them tying him into the TV studio, I feel like it gave a good grounding for everything else to happen. Because you go with, if you go back to the source material, it's he's a banker and dealing with just the money there, and there was a lot of money to be had in television in the 80s. And him showing, he's the youngest executive and in the history of television, and just pride coming before the fall. It just added that extra layer for me of him getting his comeuppance.
That preview he shows at the beginning. Mm-hmm. The guy just pulls up with a shotgun. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and all those things are still worries today, except acid rain. What happened to acid rain? It's like when you were a child and you thought quicksand was going to be more of a problem than it turned out in your life. You're like, I know I need to have a rope near me so I can get out of quicksand, and you lie flat. And I've never experienced quicksand. Same thing with acid rain. I'm like, where's acid rain? Where'd that go?
Well, dude, as a child growing up in the 80s, you heard that a lot more than you heard about quicksand, and yet quicksand has become this thing about with children. But you heard a lot of acid. If we don't stop, no. Well, I haven't seen it yet. So
I learned, quicksand, what to do, and I learned not to climb into a refrigerator because of Punky Brewster. That's what I learned as a child.
What was
Jerry Johnson climbs into the fridge
Did they get her? They got her in time, right?
They saved her. Yeah,
Okay.
It was a very special, not a very somber episode of Punky Brewster. There would have been lawsuits. Henry would have had Punky taken away from him. That dog would have been in a pound. There would have been a problem.
So you watch. So it was Silver Spoons and then Punky Brewster, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember Silver Spoons? You watched that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big fan of those too. Anyways, yeah, Scrooge. Continue.
So he ends up, you find out everything about him in the beginning there, like just about his backstory, and you got his new boss. And I love in movies when someone is big and tough, and then their boss shows up, and they're not so big and tough anymore. They're just a kiss ass like everybody else when that happens.
And you could tell he was kind of like he wanted to, but he didn't say nothing.
Yeah, I love when that happens, in media, and it portrays that. It gives you a sign that the character's not as strong as you would make them out as I'd like you to believe.
Yeah. And then let's see what else. And then, oh wait. So what triggers what? Oh, he fires Bobcat Goldthwait. That's what triggers everything. Okay, so that's and I love that when he. Oh, we'll get to that later. Anyways, well, go ahead. Keep going.
Well, so with the Bobcat thing, it's great because he's just getting pleasure out of it.
Yeah,
that's it. He's like, this is something fun I can do. I'm going to time myself, see if I beat my old record of getting someone out of the building. And he's just so proud of it.
Oh, I know, and it. Oh man. No, I was gonna say it. I can't really. I was gonna say something about where we used to work, but I'm not gonna do that. So, anyways, keep going.
Yeah. So they. So after that point, and he is there working late, and he's all nervous about the boss coming in and talking about the pets are the next demographic. He wants.
You know how many dogs there are?
I always thought there should be a deer mouse in Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So then they move on. He sees his old partner, which in this scenario is his old boss, and he's the one that relays that he's going to see the three ghosts.
That John Forsythe, that's his name, right? From Dynasty. Did you ever watch Dynasty?
No, I did not watch Dynasty.
We played the theme song in our school band in elementary school. I used to watch that, and this happens with a lot of movies or TV shows. So did you watch Knight Rider and the A-Team and all that kind of stuff?
Yep.
Do you remember any episodes? I don't remember any episodes. Like I used to watch Dukes of Hazzard every week. Cannot tell you a single episode. I don't know why that is, but anyways, it sucks because I start to watch them now and I'm like, I don't remember this one.
Even other, more recent shows, you can pick out a few, but ones back then I can't remember them. Maybe it's because we didn't, they were just on when they were on, and we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't absorb them. We just liked the spectacle. I feel like, I remember the car jumps, and I remember like the chases and get, but I don't remember. But anyways, yeah. Go ahead. Continue.
So I thought the special effects of the old boss still held up pretty good.
Yeah.
The practical effects for his makeup and stuff were great. And even when he puts him out, out the window, I still thought it was pretty good. Yeah.
Well, even when he shoots him, like the mouse coming out of the back of the head. Yeah. Like, I love practical. I'll take practical over it. Yeah. As
I get older and more cynical, I start thinking logistics, and it ruins a lot of stuff for me as an adult. And thinking about, he only took like one glass of liquid, and then all his liquid's pouring out of all the holes. Logistically, one, there wouldn't be all that liquid. Number two, it's probably not going to go through all the holes, right? It's only going to go through the top
Maybe one. Yeah.
It's not like equally diverted through all the gunshot wounds. But I put that in the back of my mind, and I tried to move on.
Yeah.
But he wakes up from there, and he's like, great, this is going to happen, and he calls his former lover. Or the system calls the former lover for him. The ghost puts him on the right path.
Yeah. Karen Allen
gets into Karen Allen.
Yeah, man. I think any movie that I've seen her in, she's always hitting it out of the park. I mean, it's just, the way her eye, for me, it's her eyes and the way she smiles. A big crush, especially after Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark or whatever that was. Yeah. So then, let's see. What does she do? Oh, so she shows up the next. Now this movie, it happens in what, 2 days or the night before?
Yeah. So I think, well, that's the tough thing because it's nighttime. Like he says, you're working late and everything like that. Like he fires Bobcat.
Yeah.
Bobcat's down, downstairs. It's sunny.
Yeah.
And then he has to stay. He says he's staying late that night.
Right.
But that wouldn't be Christmas Eve night. That would be the day before. Right.
Yeah,
So I think on Christmas Eve, starting at noon, that's when he starts to see the ghosts.
Okay. Because I was trying to figure it out when I was watching it this morning, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, this is Christmas Eve. And then when he fires them, but then there's a whole nother day, the next day that he goes and has lunch. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, it's not. Oh, okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think when he sees his boss, it's like, his old boss, it's like the Christmas Eve.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, what else? Yeah. Calls. Yeah, and they're doing that live show on Christmas Eve. That's what it is, right? Christmas Eve or Christmas Day?
So Christmas Eve, they're doing the live broadcast of Christmas Story.
Yeah. And then Karen Allen shows up.
Yep. So he's down there saying, I tried glue to put the antlers on the mice, but it just won't stay. And, have you tried staples? I just looks at him.
And then when it comes back to that at the end, the guy is like miming it. He's like,
yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. And then what happens next?
So he goes and has lunch with his current boss, right? And his current boss introduces him to the new young guy from California, which my sixth man is that actor. Like I feel like he's not a cameo, right? He has more scenes than a cameo, but he's
right. Every
time he's in it, he's on point and you're watching him.
Yeah. Mine was David Johansen or Buster Poindexter. Mm-hmm. I remember I watched a lot of Saturday Night Live during this time. For me, that was the greatest. Aside from the beginning, the original cast, like this era was. I used to tape the episodes, and they would have like Mel Gibson and Tom Hanks and Bill Murray would come back and Chevy Chase would come back. So it was just this great time. But he was sometimes he sat in with the band, and so you would hear, and it's Saturday Night, when they're introducing everybody. And the Saturday Night Live band with Buster Poindexter, and he came out in a suit and he would croon. Because wasn't he part of the New York Dolls? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so that was a punk band. So I didn't know he was in a punk band until years later. But
and one thing I saw on I think it was IMDb, was that Bill Murray was in the Hot 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 video as a bartender.
Oh, was he? Yeah, because they're buddies. I read somewhere that they were buddies. That's why the part was originally written for who was it? Chuck Norris? There was a part written for Chuck Norris in there somewhere because Bill Murray was a big fan, but they couldn't get him, so they got it was going to be what's his name? He was in Lethal Weapon. Mel Gibson, and then Mel Gibson couldn't do it, so he was like, yeah, let's get my buddy over here. So they were buddies. That's why he was in the movie. And he did a great job. I love that. I love that guy.
Yeah, it was a good fit. Solid fit for the character. You remember it.
Yeah.
And that whole sequence of his past, jumping between childhood. I love when he says, that veal in today's money would be.
Is this a choo-choo train? What? How many pounds is it? Like 3 pounds or something?
It was like 3 pounds of veal.
Oh man! And that was so that was his brother, Brian Doyle Murray, right? That played his dad.
Yeah, and he's also the in Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah.
The mayor in Groundhog Day. I saw something that this is the movie that like the most amount of Murray brothers were in. Like all the actors were in this.
Yeah, his brother was played by his brother, right? That was his brother?
Yep.
Yeah. At the end, though, all of his reaction shots, it was like, oh, Jesus, dude. Kind of cringy, but does he have a big career? Do you know? Or
I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't check that on IMDb.
Yeah, I didn't check it either. I just because I'd never seen him. I could tell that it was his brother. You could just tell, but yeah. Anyways. And then, keep going.
So he goes through that in childhood, and then it goes back to the Christmas party, which I think is, the Christmas party thing has been done in some of the other Christmas carols too.
Yeah, his hair in that scene.
It's just so poofy. And then the dog show. When he's
the dog, dude. That was when. So in the movie, that was when they, that was the breakup. So here, and forgive me because I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but it was so when he's, to me, the only problem I have, if there's anything, if you can call it that, or nitpick or whatever, is he changes. So first of all, he changed when he sees his coffin getting burned, and he realizes that he's back in the elevator. He changes like that, and yet when he changes, he's still kind of that physical. And that was the thing for me, was like kind of thinking like that jump just happened too quick. Do you think that or no? What do you think about that?
Yeah, you get a little bit of it, when it moves on. He doesn't really change a lot. The first ghost, right? The past ghost.
Right. I don't think he changes at all. Yeah.
There's very little there. Cause he's like, I was doing what I needed for my career. Like I had to do that.
Right,
and she didn't want to go in line with that. Like I have to worry about myself. And even the present, it's like there's a little bit there, but not enough. There's definitely a wide swing with the death, with the future.
Yeah.
I
think that they could have.
Go ahead.
I just thought that they could have hammered it just a little bit more, make it draw it out just a little bit more, just because it just seemed like he just turned on a dime.
Yeah, it could have built a little bit smoother. Even when he sees his assistant's son and the mental thing, he's like, oh, I guess she's due for a raise. Okay, well, she's due. Like it, he still started with I guess maybe she's due. Kind of like in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, when the boss is brought in at the end, he's like, well, maybe I should do it, and it kind of has that same feel. But then seeing himself in the casket, there was a big turn there. Like that was his only thing. Like, oh, I'm gonna die, and
so
you're gonna die anyways.
Yeah, it kind of made me feel like, well, that's still a little selfish. But the only reason he changed was because he saw him. It didn't seem like he was affected by this other stuff, which I think in the traditional kind of Christmas Carol movies, there's that progression. Even with the George C. Scott one that I love. Like, even after the first one, he's still like, but you see that the beginning, the planting of the seed of okay, all right, And this one, I just Bill Murray just did, or maybe it wasn't Bill Murray, but it was Donner, but it was just kind of like I don't know. It just didn't. I didn't buy it, I guess, as big as all these other ones, but it was still good. It was still good.
Yeah, it's an abrupt turn. It's a
right.
Might be 90 degrees, but it's like a solid 84, 85 degrees just from
also,
that one moment.
Yeah, and also he still's like, I don't know. Anyways, yeah. I can't articulate it, but he still seemed kind of like, even when he was happy, like he was like, last week I would have kicked this guy's butt, and I don't know. Maybe it was just the delivery or something, but I think that's part of Bill Murray's charm.
Yeah, even with the Christmas present and watching them do the trivia game, his brother and stuff like that. Like it was still all about him like wanting. He's like, no, I have the right answer. Like that's what it is. Right. I want to see how horrible these people are at this thing and how much better I am.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a really steep ramp up for him. Okay, I'm gonna die. It wasn't even about. Yeah, you're gonna die, dude. Like that's gonna happen. Like it wasn't like you died, 6 months from now because someone, that you fired or someone affected by this broadcast. Like the woman who had a heart attack and died from watching the trailer. Someone from her family comes by and is going to assault you. It wasn't even that. It was just you're gonna die, and it's like, wait a second. Just the realization that you're gonna die is gonna change years and years of this being built into you.
Yeah,
so that's a good observation. That was pretty steep.
Yeah. So, and then he has the ending speech, which I think again, when I was talking about earlier, was it kind of harkens back to a lot of his stuff. I mean, he does that in Stripes. He does it in Meatballs. He does it. Let's see, what did he do? What about Bob? He kind of that whole movie is kind of like that, but he did a couple of the serious stuff too. He did Razor's Edge, and then he did Where the Buffalo Roams, which is about Hunter S. Thompson, and he does. I think he does some speeches in that one. I haven't seen those entirely. I've seen bits and pieces of those. Have you ever seen those movies?
No.
Yeah, nearby.
Nope.
But yeah. So your sixth man, your Klay Thompson award was, what was that again? Let me write this down.
John Glover, who plays Bryce Cummings, and so he's the hot Hollywood exec that's coming in and is gonna take over, and he's worried that this is the new guy, like I'm losing my touch, like they're bringing a new guy, and it just puts him even more on edge. But he's, I know it's more than a cameo because he's was in there a good amount of scenes, but.
No, that's perfect.
It's another
like secondary
good actor.
Too, like a secondary character.
Yeah, and he's an actor that you've seen in tons of things.
I was just thinking Smallville, and then the Batman and Robin, but a lot of other stuff too. God, was he in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead? Was he in that movie? Let's see that. John,
not on his IMDb.
Okay.
But he was in the TV show Dinosaurs as a babysitter.
Oh, was he?
So, I mean, that must be what you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, there you go. Did you ever watch that TV show?
Dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did?
That was. I mean, my wheelhouse for TV growing up was Alf, Dinosaurs, Family Matters, Full House, like that. Okay. That was my wheelhouse. I was right at the age when all that stuff hit. Alf, I carried an Alf doll with me till like third grade.
Oh, wow. I think I knew that because that's why I sent that Alf thing that I saw the other day to you. What was my wheelhouse? My wheelhouse TV was, it was Family Ties. I think when I started ending my watching TV or watching I remember it was Seinfeld, ER, I think Cheers, the last parts of Cheers. ER was 94. So yeah, it was just, I don't remember. Family Ties. Do you remember did you watch Family Ties when it was on TV?
Yeah, I do remember watching Family Ties.
Do you remember the TV shows around it? Yeah, I don't remember.
No.
Anyways, that was 84, I think, 83, 84. I remember Manimal. Do you ever see that TV show?
No. Heard of it.
It was a guy from It was the guy I think from. Oh, I don't remember where he's from, but he was this dude, and he could change into different animals, and his hand would turn into a paw, and he would turn into a cougar or a leopard or something, and then there was Rex Harrison was in. It was kind of like a Blue Thunder, but on a motorcycle, and also Blue Thunder too. TV shows. Anyways, we're getting off track. But
Growing Pains was Do we say no? We were saying Family
Pains.
Ties, huh?
Yeah, Growing Pains. I watched that one too.
Family Ties was 82 to 89, so I would have been
Yeah.
on the later end of that for Family Ties.
Okay, I remember starting watching Family Ties like in the second season, I think. So it was 83, 84. And 84, 83, 84 is when it was at its peak. And yeah, so
Alf was 86, so that's why it's my wheelhouse. It's like a 6-year-old watching
I watched
Alf.
that. 86. I was 12. Jeez, you're 6 years younger than me? Oh, wow.
I guess so. If the math's mathing,
Oh, man.
I haven't crossed the Wilford Brimley line yet. So
You don't got the diabetes?
I think I marked it on my calendar where my actual Wilford Brimley cocoon line is. I think I have it on my calendar for when it happens. I want to celebrate that day. That's the type of person I am. If I would, if a song says a date and time in it, that I want to listen to the song on the date and time. I remember "Brick" by Ben Folds 5 is 6 a.m. day after Christmas, and I remember I had an alarm clock. This is probably a year after the album came out. And I remember setting it. I had to get up at 6 a.m. the day after Christmas to work. So I remember putting the CD in and be like, okay, pull up this track at 6 a.m. Anytime there's a song or a movie or something like that there is a date, I'm like, I want to watch it on that date or hear it on that date.
Nice. Yeah, nice. So let's see. What else are we? So we're at the end. So, okay, cool, man. So we're having you back on the 10th, right? Let me look at my calendar here. The 10th.
January,
we're gonna
for January. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you down for the 10th. But again, you can come on anytime you want, dude.
You never know. I might pop in. You need a
yes. We can have you as a guest too, like a half hour. If you only have like 10 minutes, half hour, whatever, you hop into. Let me write this down here. Hold on. Okay. So, all right, cool, man. Scrooged. Bill Murray. Fucking great. Love it. What else? You got anything else you're doing? You want to watch? Any movies you got on the horizon? Do you go to the theaters to watch movies?
I try to. It depends.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot in theaters,
Yeah.
But I try to for the bigger blockbuster things. I still enjoy the experience. We got to see Wicked still. I was letting Wicked breathe a little bit so that hopefully the diehards are done and won't have to worry about singing or anything. So maybe gonna see Wicked at some point over the Christmas break.
The last thing I saw I think was Dune. I think that no. I just saw one. I can't even remember the last movie I saw. Oh, it's Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that was the last one I saw. Did you see that one in theaters?
Yeah, I think that's the same last one I saw. I saw that twice in the theaters.
Yeah, I go to airport over here in Santa Rosa, and it's usually it's not packed. I mean, maybe I just get there early because I get there and there's no one there, and then people start walking in. But
now, let me ask you: Do you feel like? I know we're not in the golden age of movies and theaters, and that's long past us and is never coming back. But as far as the movie theater experience and the lack of everyone planning their seats and that sort of aspect of it, do you think that's a good thing that's happened?
Well, yeah, the seats, I think, but
your butt appreciates the leather. I get it.
I think the thing that's hampering it is just the price. It's just kind of like, a lot of times me and my sister will be like, "Are you going to go see that movie?" And she'll be like, "Well, I'm going to wait till it comes out streams," because I think a lot of times like when I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, I went and got food before and had like a dinner, and then I went and saw the movie. And it's just, I got popcorn, a drink, and I think I got like Milk Duds or something. And it was like 30 or 25, $26. And, you know, and that's not including the ticket, which was another, I don't know. To me, it's the pricing. To me, it's just, I'd rather just, you know, if it's something like Dune, where it's the spectacle plus its sound design and it's the way it's filmed. Maybe like Oppenheimer, I went and saw it because he used IMAX, so I want to see it in the big screen. But the smaller movies, you know, I think, especially with the amount of money that they have to put into a movie to promote it, you just see all the kind of the dramas, like the Goodwill Huntings and all that kind of, those kind of movies kind of just, they go either straight to a streaming service or they just play a day and then they're gone. And so, you know, I don't know. I mean, I miss it, but I still like you, I pick and choose. And, but I remember being a kid and just being so excited to go to the movies. I went to the movies all the time. And I was talking to Toby about this the other day, which was, I remember going and see Back to the Future in the theaters. Or no, it's not Back to, well, I did see it in the theaters, but I remember seeing War Games in the theaters, and just the whole experience of that, plus the sound of it, like the sound of like the, you know, these little computer sounds and all this that it just kind of enveloped me. And so when I would go see a movie, it would just be this, I was in this world, and it was, and I just had the greatest time. I was lost in it. And today I think there's very few movies that really kind of take that. I think, Oppenheimer director, Jesus, Nolan, Christopher Nolan. I think he, you know, Spielberg's still spitting out stuff. But I think when you get to like, I'm kind of rambling here, but when you get to like Scorsese and even Coppola, I think they kind of, yeah, I don't know. I think they kind of, I don't want to say too old, because I just hate that, but they get to a point where it's like for me watching Pearl Jam, you know, like they just put out an album in March, which is a great album, and I listen to it all the time. But when I go to the show, I want to see like the live show. I want to see like the everything. I want to see all this stuff. And in movies, unfortunately, you can't really do that. You know, you can't really pull unless you copy yourself, which I don't think they do. So I know, back to your original question, I think I miss it. I don't, it's not the same thing. It was when I was even like 10, 15 years ago. It was still an experience that I loved. But today I can kind of like, I'll just watch it when it comes out on streaming.
I think you hit the nail on the head that it's not the same thing. Like it's apples and oranges at this point. Yeah. Like I love the fact that I can plan my seat. I can book it on, I'm a planner, so I can book it on Wednesday night, be like, okay, we're going to get these aisle seats. These are normal seats. Sometimes I'll buy the seat next to us if I, you know, feel like it's going to be packed, just to have that extra breathing room. And I love that experience. It's definitely different than it was before. Even, you know, when my daughter was born and got to be 3 or 4, I told myself, I'll see whatever movie you want to see. You say you want to see a movie that's coming on theater, we'll go see it that weekend or the next weekend, just because of the experience, because it's fun. It was a thing to go do. And now it's definitely oranges. It's a event that you plan. It's like buying a concert ticket. You're like, you know, that morning you're like, why'd I buy that? I don't want to, I don't want to leave the house today, but now I have to. And you go and, you know, it's still fun, but it's definitely different than it used to be. But apples and oranges.
I mean, I remember being a kid, and I would go with my uncle or an aunt or my mom, or if she was in town. And, you know, I remember one of them saying, "Oh, gosh, I thank God they don't play commercials, you know. And now that's all you see is, commercial marketing. It's just crept into the whole movie thing, and now it's 20 minutes of commercials before. And I mean, the thing that we had to worry about back then was Will Rogers every February for like a week. It was like, they would play the thing, and then at the end, did you ever experience that?
Was that like a donation?
Yeah.
Thing?
And so they would play like a thing with all the, famous people, please donate to Will Rogers. And at the end, the usher would be at the bottom going, I'm here to collect anything. And then they'd go around and it was like for a week, every February, you'd have to deal with that. But that was it. And it was just people kind of a black screen and people kind of sitting there and waiting for the movie to start and talking. And that's the thing that's part of it that I miss is it's just everything now is just, with everything is just so busy, like my sports. It's like baseball. They're trying to make it to accommodate people that are just, it's baseball, dude. It's, you watch, you put it on your TV at home and then you do what you're doing and you go about your day and, oh, wow. Oh, wait, he hit a home run, and it's just baseball. That's just how and so I find that in a lot of things is like, let's fill every little thing with something because we're hustling and we need to make money. And I just find that it creeps into everything and it's crept into the movie business too, because, they spend so much making, all these movies, and then back then they had like you had three or four major movie studios, and now you have tons. And I don't know, dude. Yeah, I miss it. I miss that. Sure. Anyways, yeah, it's kind of a different, it's just a different experience. And I think that to go back to that is you can't really go back to that. I think now all you can do is kind of try and with I saw that thing with Ben Affleck and he's talking about AI, and I think that that's probably the avenue to go. Which did you hear about that? Did you watch his interview? Yeah, he was talking about how AI. They asked him about AI and how it's going to affect the movie industry, and they were saying, is it going to take your jobs away from actors and writers and this? And he was like, nah. And he goes, AI to be able to distinguish a scene and have, 2 or 3 actors, 4 actors in it, and to decipher what is good and when to say cut and how AI just doesn't have that capability yet. What AI will do is it'll write you, maybe instead of 1 season of House of Dragons, you'll get 2 in one year, 2 seasons in 1 year. Maybe that it'll do that. Or maybe you'll be able to pay like $30 and go, give me an episode of Succession where so-and-so does this and so-and-so does that. And they can do it and it'll be a little janky and it'll be a little weird, but they'll have all the beats. And so, and I see that and I kind of agreed with that because it'll lower costs and it'll let other people kind of come in and kind of make those Good Will Hunting movies and those little indie dramas, which I loved. I was a big part. I loved it in the late 90s. I remember seeing so many movies in the late 90s, these indies that I can't remember now, but I remember seeing them. So yeah, I think hopefully that will bring about that kind of change where a lot more people can kind of entry level, it's not so much gatekeeping anymore. It'll just be more people making their own little like movies. And with the advent of, I heard YouTube is going to kind of create channels for people to do that. So if you have a YouTube channel, I know my YouTube channel, I'll be able to make serialized kind of things if I want to, and they will promote it as like a TV show and they'll do all that kind of stuff. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but so yeah, maybe that'll happen. Maybe, I look forward to the time when a new movie comes out and I want to go to the movie theater and see it, but a family, like I'm assuming like with your family, you have 3 people in your family. Maybe you bring like a sister or an aunt or whatever. And that's 4 people and you're paying $15-20. I don't even know what it is, $15-20 for a seed, and then you have to pay for popcorn and food and all that. It's
Yeah,
a lot of money.
When you start with a young kid, it's like, oh, you just share some of my popcorn, and now it's like, no,
Yeah.
we need separate popcorns. Like that's, and it's like, I don't want to get up in the middle and go get the free refill, so let's just get 2 popcorns.
Well, speaking of getting up, sorry to cut you off, but speaking of getting up, it's like now I'm starting to get up during the movies too to go to the bathroom. Oh man, Dune, I had to get up twice. Oppenheimer was a couple times. I'm like, jeez.
I remember when Endgame came out, and it was, I would look up like, when do you go to the bathroom? Because it hadn't been an issue for me, but I like to tell my wife, like, hey, here's a good spot that it says you can go. You're not going to miss anything. And there was a little badge you could put on your Facebook profile that was like, I made it through Endgame without a pee break.
That's awesome. So hopefully the theater experience will get better, and but
yeah, and we had appointment TV growing up. It's like Charlie Brown, you're like, oh, Charlie Brown, I have to be in front of the TV on this date, this time for this thing. Same thing with movies. And the only movies that I tend to go see now are ones that I don't want spoiled.
Yeah.
So like Deadpool, Wolverine, it's like I'm going to go radio silent. I'm going to go see this as soon as I can after opening. And then there's other movies like Wicked. I'm more willing to go, I'm going to wait a little bit because I've seen the play. I know the story. So those smaller ones are things that are more likely to fall into it's not in theaters anymore. I guess we're waiting till it's released.
Yeah. That's how I am. I have a smart TV, a 65-inch, so I'm like, this is cool. I need a sound bar, but other than that, I'm fine,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know a lot of people frown upon this, but I watch a lot of shit on my phone too, just because I'm so connected. That's how connected I am with movies and just pop culture in general, just like music and movies. And, I watch a lot of YouTube stuff, and so I'm always on my phone. So I watch movies on my phone, which I would prefer not to, but I mean, if I'm waiting for something, or if I take my car in for an oil change or whatever, it's like, I'll just watch some on my phone, or so, in that aspect, I think I'm part of the problem, but I mean, until you present something that's, that I need to go see that, then, and I think that's what's, the temple movies, like I was talking with Toby one time about the Marvelization of cinema, which I love Marvel movies. I'll go and see every one of them if I want to, but it created this thing of all right, well, now we have to, not have to, but now to make as much money back as we can, we have to kind of make a movie that appeals to all these demographics and make sure that there's this and this and no cussing and and it kind of, like, I don't know, what they do that thing to milk to make it take all the good stuff out of it. It's like, that's what they do with the movies nowadays. It's like all this stuff of, well, how about a movie about this? And it's like, well, we can't make that. It's, it's 20 million, and then we have to do this, and we might as well just spend 300 million and then make sure that everybody sees it. And, okay. So.
I feel like we went through the time where it was the 80s and 90s, and it was like, yeah, this movie did well. Let's throw money at these movies. Like these things are doing well, whether it's an action movie, for a certain period of time. And they try to throw money at the things that are actually succeeding. And they still do that. But we went through the streaming era, the golden streaming era, where they were just throwing money everywhere. And seeing how much that barely any of the spaghetti stuck to the wall when that happened. There wasn't a ton of great stuff. It was still proportional to everything else. And you've got to put only that best stuff up there, and that's what the consumers want nowadays. They'll sit at home and watch something there that's just kind of meh in their mind, but for them to see it in the theater, it has to they have to have some tie to it, like the nostalgia of Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, and going to see it because of that, or it has to be something that they're like, I need to see this on the big screen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much time. I don't know how you're doing on time wise. You have to get out of here soon.
Yeah, I got a little bit more.
Okay. So back in this, there's this in film school. They made us watch, or I took this class, and they made us watch this movie called the decade. Gosh, I forget. But there's this other documentary. It's the same. It's called Raging Bulls. And geez, my mind, I can't think of the fucking name. Anyways, documentaries about the 70s. They basically, the two documentaries have the same people in it. They basically say the same stories, but it was about this period between 67 and 77 in Hollywood, where you had a lot of the Jack Warners and the people running the studios. They were all retiring and selling off parts of their studios. And so a lot of these conglomerate type companies would come in and buy these studios. And they were like, well, we don't know anything about making movies. We sell like plant food and cat food and, you know, whatever else, plastic stuff. And, you know, that was the exact time Scorsese, Coppola, Lucas, all these people were coming out of film school and making their own films. They had been making films for Roger Corman. I don't know. I know you know. Mm-hmm. Do you know who Roger? Okay. So, you know, they came out of this. They knew how to make films. They knew how to make films cheap. They knew how to do everything on the film set. So they would get at these meetings with these executives, and they were like, well, what do you want? Like, well, just give us money. We'll make our movies, and we could, we'll make them. And they're just like, okay, cool. Just invite me to the premiere. And they would. That's where you got Godfather, Easy Rider. You got all the the Conversationalist. All these great, like, anti-hero, but still great movies. And what happened was that was the first shift. And then in 77, Spielberg made Jaws. And after Jaws came Star Wars. And so after that, the movie executives were like, oh, okay. Oh, no, we get it now. Okay. It's about this. We'll get these demographics. Here's the button. And so then the filmmakers are pushed out. And that's what we see now and on a grander scale. But back then in the 80s was the beginning of all this kind of blockbuster, you know, tentpole type of movies where, you know, they were big enough to kind of appeal to a large audience, because for the studios, it was like, let's maximize our profit. Let's see what works, what doesn't, this and that. And you still had like Spielberg and Coppola and George Lucas making movies, and they were still in control, but they had to do, you know, they had to kind of prove their way. They did it in the 70s. But when the new filmmakers came up, they were in control of the studios, and the studios kind of took back the power. And so that, and not to say that studios are inherently evil, but, you know, in this day and age, you have to make, you know, like I said, the big movies that kind of appeal to a big demographic, and you kind of lose a little bit of the luster, you know, when you do that enough times, you know. So I don't know. I just feel like that there's a kind of a revolution coming in terms of filmmaking. I see a lot of new filmmakers. I see a lot of YouTube creators highlighting these filmmakers, you know, because they start out maybe with a YouTube channel. So hopefully that comes to fruit.
I like Ernest Goes to Camp.
Yeah, that's a classic. And was it Encino Man? That was my favorite.
It's interesting to think about, you know, YouTube and how that's affected everything, and people taking in such short form content now versus long form. My daughter to have her watch a movie, it takes a lot to get her to sit down and say, I'm going to focus on a 90-minute movie. Yeah. But if she does and she likes it, she's locked in. She's watching it over and over and over.
Yeah.
So she gets into, you know, the Hunger Games, and then she's like, I'm watching just the Hunger Games, and that's all I'm watching. And now she's moving into TV shows, and, you know, she'll tell me TV shows she's watching and binging, and she's like, I finished the 7th season, and I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. Like, how did I not know that existed? So I think people are People, yes, of course, they're consuming things differently than when we were kids, because you don't have to go to the video store and get the stuff or own a copy of it. You can just look for it when it sparks in your head. But I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to sit down and watch a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Unless it is something that they know, oh, this is Marvel, I'm going to miss out if I don't continue to watch this, because I felt like that. I feel like I'm falling behind on Star Wars stuff. Not watching Skeleton Crew, and falling behind on Andor, not finishing that, and at some point it's like, I'm just like people that watched Lost and got 4 seasons in, and then we're like, or Walking Dead or 24, and at some point you're like, I'm too far behind. I just got to cut my losses and move on from this. Unless people have that tie, it's really tough to get them out there to something that they don't know yet, and they don't know that they'll like yet.
Yeah. It's starting to creep in for me too. It's starting to be like, do I want to watch? Like, I started watching Skeleton Crew, and I was like, well, this isn't for me, because I couldn't keep my attention, and I thought, oh geez, am I starting to be, like all the younger generation, which is just you're watching something, but you got the iPad or you got the phone out too as well, and you're checking stuff. And I'm not there yet, but I can feel myself kind of like, I don't know if it's just the quality of things that are being put out now, but it's like, I that's what I just don't want to do. I don't want to, like, if I'm going to watch a movie, I'm going to be invested. I'm going to watch it and take mental notes and what I like, what I don't like. And then, what did this director make before that I liked? Oh, is it like that? Just, you get the deep dive into all these things. And, nowadays it just seems like, I'm supposed to FaceTime my friend. I could fit it in between, this and that, and they watch it, but then they're not really, invested. And well, hey, the guy that made this other movie you like. Oh, cool. Okay.
It's so easy. Right. It's so easy now to just pause and be like, I don't need to watch it in a full setting. And it's like, it's a story. It's a start and an end. Like, it's meant to be seen start to end. You're supposed to devote that 97 minutes runtime to this whole story to see it through. People being able to pause it, that's people watching on a treadmill, and then I ran for 30 minutes, I watched the first beginning portion of this movie. That people just don't do that. It's so tough to get someone to sit down and watch that full movie nowadays. Well,
let's hope it gets better, or whatever. Okay, so that's a wrap. Thanks everybody for listening or watching, whatever you're doing. And Scott's going to be back